What's up, and welcome back to another episode of That's Just My Life. It has been a while. I was convinced I was trying to get my shit together, but we're not having much progress, so we're coming back to the podcast. I really wanted to come back before September ended because September means so much to me with being Suicide Awareness and Suicide Prevention Month. And I really just thought this was a good time to kind of dive back into this and share my story because that's truly why I started this. I do have a lot of other things I am planning to talk about on here, but my struggle with my own mental health and the things I've been through are really, really what inspired me to start this podcast and share my story and try and help others through whatever they're going through so they know they're not alone, kind of be a light for somebody else. Well, that being said, we're going to dive right in. This is a bit of a trigger warning for this episode. There are things that are going to be talked about that might be kind of tough, but let's get into it. So, like I said, started this podcast because I really want to share my story. And I kind of took a break and I made my little annual post for September that I normally make. And really clicked that like I need to come back on the podcast. This would be a great episode. This is what I'm doing this for. And so really that's just what I'm gonna do today. I am just devastated at how mental health is looked at and the fact that it's not prioritized. It's almost like frowned upon to be mentally ill. And I think everybody's actually a little mentally ill, to be honest. I think everybody needs some therapy and some Jesus. Therapy and Jesus. It's what we all need. Anyway, so I understand how much of like a crisis we're in with mental health because it's always been seen as such like a negative thing. And I feel like this generation is trying to raise awareness, trying to you know, oh, break these norms that we've been expected to live in. And I'm so proud of us for that. But it's still, we have so much work to do still. And there's still so many people left feeling so alone because of the things they're going through and just the things in their own head. And I get it. I have been through so much. I get what it's like to not have a single person that you think cares. I really just hope that when I tell this story, it truly does help somebody know they're not alone and maybe inspires somebody. So, the first time I think I was like, something's wrong, I was young. I was 9. I lost my mom when I was 9, and I think after that, I wasn't good. I wasn't well. I literally locked myself in my room for like a month and a half. My grandparents tried to get me into therapy, and I guess my dad told them I was fine. I was acting like nothing happened. But I missed like a month and a half of school. Like, yes, you're supposed to grieve when you have a significant loss like that, but I was like not functioning, I feel like. And honestly, now it's kind of a blur. Like, I don't remember a lot of things, and I guess childhood trauma does that to you, but I do remember I was like, this is not how I should be feeling. And my mom died right before I turned 10. And so it was a little after I turned 10. Everything had just happened with my mom. I went through something with one of my friends. And that was my first attempt at 10 years old. Um, I'm not gonna go into details of all my like attempts on how I did it and all those because we don't need to talk about that. It doesn't need to be that big of a trigger. But you know what? That's just so. And now I'm hearing these stories of these 10, 11, 12, 13 year olds that are, harming themselves and committing suicide. And it is just so sad because I have been there. And, mine wasn't personally from like bully. Like I was a little bullied around age 10. Had a gap like this big and glasses and the hair wasn't like cutesy red. It was like this puzzle piece red. I'm also trying to find a hobby, side note. So there's a big old puzzle in front of me right now on my desk. I gave up on it yesterday. I got the border done. Anywho. And so truly like I wish I had known then what I have like know now, the knowledge I have now. Because at 10 years old, there's so much more you're supposed to be doing with your life. Like just be having fun, having sleepovers, building forts. I don't know. I guess that's what normal kids do at 10. Not me. I was depressed. I missed my mom and I wanted to leave this place. Thankfully, thank God, God has a plan for me and it didn't work. I went through my teenage years. It was not a good time. Obviously, not having a mom during those times was like detrimental to me. Um, my mom my dad had a lot of girlfriends, but none of 'em, it's not to her mom. When he divorced my stepmom, I think is when things got really bad, um, because she was kind of a mom figure for me. She had been in my life since I was 4. She she treated me as her own. She truly was great to me, and when my dad divorced her, I felt like I really didn't have a mom. Like, my mom is dead. This woman who has been my mom figure for 10 years is now gone. Um, and my dad was, like, filling the void with all these different women, and none of them could ever replace my mom, and some of them tried to, and that pissed me off because, like, who are you to come in here and take that role? My dad had a really bad habit of falling in love every time he found a woman, and we would rearrange our entire life to fit this woman. And I transferred schools a lot, which I think played into I never really felt like I belonged at any school. Granted, we moved back and forth a lot. I moved from 2 towns back and forth a lot, before my stepmom and my dad finalized their divorce. Um, and, people knew me, it was fine, but, like, who wants to be friends with a girl that's gonna move again in a couple months or in a year? And I've always gotten along with everybody, but I'd never truly felt like I belonged. Like, I wasn't popular, but I wasn't unpopular. I think I was popular for a lot of the wrong quote, unquote, "popular." I was well known for a lot of the wrong reasons. When you don't have and these 2 people who are supposed to love you the most, one has, in your mind, chosen drugs over you and OD'd and left you with this man who can't put a woman behind you, like, you are not his priority even though you should be, and, you have all these negative things, all these people telling you you're gonna be like your mom, you're gonna be like your dad, you're not going anywhere in life, like, this one mistake you made is gonna haunt you for the rest of your life. It was a mistake that all 15, 16-year-olds make. If you went to high school with me, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like, I made some not good decisions in high school. I paid the consequences of those actions. But also, not to, like, validate or excuse my actions, but when you don't have love from when you're where you should be getting it, where you're supposed to be getting this nurturing, loving environment from, you chase it. And I was chasing it in all the wrong places. I was chasing it in guys I knew I shouldn't be talking to. I was chasing it in guys I knew only wanted me for one thing. I was chasing it in my cousin's friends, and we kept it a secret. Oh, don't tell him we're talking. Don't tell him I'm talking to you. Like, and I generally think people were scared of my cousin. And that was the other thing, like, I was my cousin's little cousin. I was Brie, but I was also his little cousin, and, like, so then some of the friends I did have, I'm like, "Well, are you friends with me because of me, or are you friends with me because of him?" And it's just such a hard thing to grasp at that age, like, so I truly was just chasing all the wrong things. I I wanted to feel loved, I wanted to feel needed, and looking back, it's so hard to look back on that time in my life, excuse me, because I'm not proud of it, and it's really hard to look back on because I just truly, like, had a plan for my life, and I wanna my family told me, "Oh, you're throwing your life away, you're doing all these wrong." I wouldn't say I threw my life away, but I made some bad choices, and I definitely have learned the hard way through some things. I honestly think that's what life's about, learning the hard way. But when you're 17, 18, and all these wrong things are happening and you don't have love from your parents and you have gone through this immense amount of childhood trauma, losing a parent, abuse, assaults, like all the things, I I was lost. I went down a very dark hole. I left for college, and my freshman year was on paper, I think it looked great. I had a 4.0. I was at school on a cheer scholarship. I had a lot of friends. I was at one of the fraternities every weekend, partying it up. When you looked at my life, you were like, "Oh, what a good life." But I was so depressed. I was partying every weekend at the frat houses because I didn't want to feel my feelings. And I was hanging out with all these different people who I knew were no good for me. And my roommate was my best friend. She still is one of my best friends. I love her to pieces. She quite honestly saved my life. I had just gotten out of the hospital. My school therapist, I don't know well, other schools do, but my school I went to, and I think most of them have, like, a on-site school counselor, and I wanna say it was, like, one of my teachers recommended I go talk to her, so whatever, I did, and she basically gave me, like, an ultimatum of, "You're gonna check yourself in or you're gonna involuntary be checked in." Involuntary is no fun. Well, I went, my best friend drove me, and I was there for I think the first time I was there for, like, a week, and 2 of my other best friends picked me up. We went and got Panda Express. It was fantastic. And then I wanna say it was probably a month later, maybe 2 months later, I had tried to OD on all the meds they gave me. They finally put me on meds because I was finally starting therapy. They told me I needed to start therapy. I started therapy, and they also started me on some antidepressants and anxiety meds. And I was going through something really hard at the time. When you're 18, everything's hard, I guess. And my boyfriend and I at the time were fighting. And, this was my like first big college boyfriend. Like we were pretty good. I honestly now don't even remember what we were fighting about. Like if that tells you anything, the thing that I tried to take my life over, I don't even remember details of it now. And after I did it, I called my roommate, my best friend, and I was like, I did something. And she's like, What'd you do? And I was like, I need you to come up here now. And by the time she got to our room, I was pretty much unresponsive. I don't really remember much. I remember her big was a senior nursing major. So she came over and was like taking my vitals and talking on the phone to the paramedics and our campus security and our RA and our like residential director who also lived in the building were all in our room. It was this big frenzy. There were so many people in our room and they have to haul me out of my dorm in this on the gurney, take me to the ambulance. And the paramedic lady was like, Weren't you just in for this a couple weeks ago? And like I don't really remember the ambulance ride. I truly don't, but I do remember that, and that stands out to me because I work in healthcare, and I just couldn't imagine saying that to someone. If you have those comments, keep them to yourself, especially when you have a vulnerable patient. Like I had just tried to harm myself, and that's what you decided to say to me. Obviously, I was upset. Obviously, I'm going through something. Obviously, you know nothing about what my life entails. So, like, who are you to be like, you're back again for the same thing? Like, I work in the ER. I see the same drunk little guy often, and he tells me I'm an angel, and then he gets mad because he can't leave, or he gets mad at us that we can't give him a turkey sandwich yet. And then he tells me I'm an angel again, and then he sobers up and he leaves and he comes right back. But never would I be like, You're back again because you're drunk. You're back again because you can't put the bottle down. Like, no, you don't take somebody in their most vulnerable moment and give your judgment and opinions on it. And I think that as a society, we're so bad about that. We are so bad about just we see this one part of somebody's life and we make our judgment on it. We judge them and we frown upon them and we make whatever biases we're going to make of this person on this one sliver of their life that we see. And I hate that because there's so many people going through so many things. And it just drives me nuts. Like, we just need to be nice to people. And that's part of the mental health crisis is like everybody is so freaking mean to each other for no reason. Be a girl's girl. I love giving a compliment. I love walking through the store and being like, I love your dress. I love your shoes. Your hair is so pretty. I love being a girl's girl. I love seeing men who hold doors and who smile at people. I I just love when people show genuine human emotion because we're not meant to be these bitchy robots. Like, no, we're meant to have human connections and all these things. And like, there's just so much hate in the world. And like, we need to not quite literally, that's all it comes down to is we need to not. There's no reason for it. And it truly contributes to like that thing that you just said could be the last straw for somebody. Just be nice to people. And that's something I really look back on in, like, my middle school days, because I was bullied a little bit in, like, middle school, and, I had just lost my mom, I was going through all these things, and then I had these kids being freaking mean to me, and that does get to you, and I think that's why we're seeing our rates and the ages grow younger and younger because this world is just so cruel and people are bullies and it's just so unnecessary. Anywho, they get me to the ambulance and I go to the hospital. I get all checked in. I'm back inpatient and I met this phenomenal roommate. I had a roommate my second time and she was amazing. I was there for 2 weeks. She left a little bit after I got there. It was longer than her. Um, but she truly opened my eyes to so many things and just reminded me that like I am still so young and losing my mom was something so bad. Like that is terrible that I had to experience that so young, but I can't let that hold me down forever. And I have so much to live for still. And like high school ends, college ends, like there's a life after that. And she was a mom and she had kids at home and she had gone through something recently and she was trying to get better for her kids. And I truly admired that about her because how strong of her to recognize that she needs help and to come in and to want to be better for her children. And I think I really admired that because I didn't have that. Like neither of my parents wanted to be better for their children. And so I finally kind of broke down in therapy and just everything came out, all the feels, all the things. I was there for almost 2 weeks. But during this stay, my dad, who I was on the outs with, freaking I don't know how he found out I was in the hospital. Maybe he was, I don't know. I don't think he was my emergency contact. Maybe the school called him. I don't really, still to this day, I don't know how he found out. But he calls me up because we get phone calls, you know. We don't get our cell phones, but we get phone calls. They were like these little booth-like things. And so he calls me up. He's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "I don't know, Dad," but I think he thought I said, "I'm just sad." And he's like, "This is more than just being sad." And I was like, "Clearly." Um, and I just kind of ended the conversation because honestly, truly, my dad is one of my triggers and it's something I'm working through. But in that time, my dad was one of my biggest triggers. We worked through it in the therapy sessions I was having a little bit. He ended up coming to visit me, and I ended up kind of reconnecting with my dad a little bit. And then my grandparents also came to visit me, and my grandma said to me, "Well, what do you have to be so upset about?" Again, looking back, when you looked at me, I had a 4.0. 4.0. I was a nursing major. I had friends, was on the cheer team. I lived the life, apparently. And I just had nothing to be sad about. But I like, and that I think just shows too, like that generation of like our parents and our grandparents, like they're just so, I don't want to say blind to mental illness and all the awareness we need on it, but they are like they're blind to what it entails in the world it is. Like, it's more than just being sad. You know, my mom had major depression. I'm a firm believer that it's genetic. And then the things I went through as a child, like, contributed to how intensely I have it and how, like, it transpired and showed. Um, but that generation of our grandparents just don't understand. And I think that's why until, our generation got old enough that we're talking about it, we're making it known, we're showing that like it's not a bad thing to feel your feelings. You should be feeling your feelings. And it's okay to need to be on a medication in order to make your brain work right. It's okay to be on a medication to not make yourself want to feel like you want to die because you shouldn't be feeling that way. But some of us just can't help it. And I I truly, truly, truly want this podcast to be inspiring. I don't want to be like talking down on anybody. So I hope it's not coming off that way. But like, I also learned while I was in therapy that, like, yes, I can take this medicine, I can do these things and that'll help. But like, I have to make the effort too. And some days that's so hard. Some days I do not want to get out of bed, especially before I met Clayton, before I moved to Kansas City, even like excluding Clayton from the conversation. Before I moved to Kansas City in general, it was so hard. Like, yes, I was on medicine that was supposed to be helping, but there was days I still wanted to not be here. There was days I wanted to just lay in bed and sit through the depression rot, but you have to keep moving and you have to know that there are brighter days ahead. I honestly don't know how my life would be if I hadn't gone through all those things, but I just told my therapist the other day, like, I didn't go through all this for nothing. Like, I want to share my story. I want to help others. I want to inspire others. I want to be a light for somebody. I want people to know that they're not alone and that they can get better. It does get better. And circling back, That was so we're, several attempts now. I was doing a lot better. I'd gotten my own apartment, like, I was doing good, and in 2021, right after my 21st birthday, um, I had another significant loss in my life, and I just went down a rabbit hole. Luckily, I had just turned 21. I was at the bar every night. Weekday, weekend, almost every night I was at the bar. And the thing is nobody said anything. And I think everybody knew that I was spiraling, but nobody said anything. And I once again attempted. At that point, the person I loved was gone. My mom was gone. Like I didn't know what. Sometimes we just get like that when we have that major depression. And people may never understand what makes us think like that, but we can't even describe it ourselves sometimes. So it's hard for others to understand. And that's something I've learned that we just have to kind of roll with. We don't have to explain it to anybody. I mean, talk to your therapist, but like you don't owe anyone an explanation on the things that are going on in your head, on the things that you're doing. If they're not contributing to your happiness, to your living, to that inner circle, bottom layer hierarchy of needs, like if they are not contributing to that, then they don't get a say. They don't need to know. And I I truly felt like everything I had was gone. And I tried again the same way as that last time. And I again, like, don't remember a lot. I remember calling the ambulance because I couldn't see straight. I was so dizzy. I call the ambulance. I wake up to a doctor telling me I'm being admitted. And, they run all the tests, they do all the things, and I didn't tell them. I knew that they would admit me again, and I didn't want to be inpatient again. I I thought I was fine. And so I just did my stay. I think I found out a couple other things while I was admitted. And it truly opened my eyes to like the way I was living my life. And I got out, I got home. I was in the hospital for like a week, I think. And also it's finals. So I'm like, you guys just put a nursing major in the hospital during finals. Like that's silly. Shout out to the nursing major. That was one of my like student nurses. She helped me study a little bit. It like truly, the nurses and things that I had just have made such a difference for me in my life. And besides my care team, didn't really have anybody in my life that was telling me, like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel your feelings. Like, I didn't have that. If I was crying, I was attention seeking. If I was trying to state my opinion or talk or having a voice, I was talking back. So I just kept it all inside. And that is so, so, so unhealthy. And I think that's another thing with a lot of our generation's parents and grandparents. Some of us were raised by grandparents and, but I feel like so many of us were taught that like emotions need to be hidden. And especially for men, the men don't cry. Men do cry. I want my man to cry. Like that sounds so bad. But me and Clayton have had that conversation of like, I want you to be able to express your emotions to me. You need to be able to communicate your feelings to me. And like, if you had a shitty day at work and you want to cry about it, come home and cry about it, baby. Like, that's okay. Like, I feel like we're just a generation of cycle breakers and it's so hard. And, we're trying to raise mental health awareness. We're trying to break all these stereotypes and really just, it's hard. It's hard to make a difference. And when you feel like you have nothing to go for and you're not going to make a difference and nothing's going to get better, I get it. But I promise that is not the option. That is not the only option. That is there's always somebody, is what I've learned. There's always somebody that cares. There's always somebody that needs you. Whether you've met them yet or not, there's somebody out here that needs you. And I say that knowing that if that had worked, I would have left my little sister. And that little girl is what my world spins around. So looking back on it now, I obviously am so, so grateful that I'm still here, still living this life. God truly must have a plan for me. Like, I am alive. But then I get this sense of like guilt because how have I tried 3 times and I'm still here to live and tell the tale? But I have friends that I've lost to suicide, and I know people that have lost loved ones to suicide, and it just makes me hurt because, like, these are good people. And, oh, sorry. Um, One of them was a really good friend of mine, and he was so young, and it was right after my last attempt. And so that's just, it's eye-opening, and it especially for what I do for work too, like, I see it so much at work, and it truly just makes you grateful, and I hate the saying, like, "People have it worse." I hate that saying, but I do tell myself sometimes that because, like, you can overcome anything, truly, truly, truly. Anytime I start to, like, doubt myself or get unmotivated or anything, I put on something that I know motivates me. So then my go-tos, Soul Surfer, such a great movie, so inspiring. Some people are gonna call me cringe for this, but any Taylor Swift documentary will make me feel like getting my shit together. That woman is just phenomenal. She's inspirational. I don't care if you listen to her music or not, if you don't like her, whatever, you can't deny that she is a role model and an inspiration for this generation. And really, like, a Soul Surfer, a Taylor Swift documentary, or, like, sometimes it just takes, like, talking to my sister-in-law, and I'm like, I need to make a list, because once I make a list, I'll feel like getting my shit together. And I feel like that's something else that, like, plays into our mental, is when we feel like we aren't doing enough with our life. And that's, I think, again, the way we were raised. We were raised to meet all these standards, meet all these expectations, and, like, sometimes it's just not possible. Like, reality check, you can't be everything to everyone and still show up for yourself. And showing up for yourself is the most important thing. I spent so much time showing up for everybody else besides myself, and it truly did, I think, play a factor in my mental health, because when you're giving and giving and giving to all these other people, your cup is emptying and you're not filling your cup. You're just, oh God, you're just, like, pouring from an empty cup, as they say. And that really does take a toll on a person's physical and mental health. You have to take care of you, is what I'm learning. You have to surround yourself with a support system. And that I, with my whole chest, say I know how hard that is, because before I moved to Kansas City, I did not have a support system. I was actually just thinking about this today because I was going through some photos and videos. And when I was going through that, like, really dark phase, I'm like, "Ugh, I had so many friends, but did I?" Because not one of them tried to be like, "Bree, get your fucking shit together. Like, what are you doing?" They all just, I don't want to say enabled it, but they were either enabling it or not saying anything about it. And I've never been a fighty person. Feisty maybe, but I've never fought. And I would never fight someone for being like, "What are you doing?" I do get very defensive, and I think maybe that's why none of my friends said anything. But also, if someone's watching you waste away your potential, then they are not a friend. Your friends should be encouraging you, helping you, pushing you to study, to try and build a relationship with Jesus and God, and try and be the best version of yourself. Your friend shouldn't be enabling you or encouraging you to go, excuse me again, go get blackout drunk every weekend. And I'm looking through my phone earlier and I'm looking at all these videos, and it's honestly just embarrassing. Like, some of the videos I have of myself that obviously got sent to me from, like, my nights out, my wild adventures, they're embarrassing. And I don't even know if I recognize that girl in that video. Like, and that's what also, when we hold someone's past against them, like, it's just so defeating, because, like, me personally, I've worked my ass off to become a different version of me. And I I know I'm not the only one. I know that's true for so many people. They work so hard to overcome these things and to become this better person, and then nobody takes them serious. Nobody believes them. And, like, I truly believe everybody needs a second chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. I don't know why my mic's making lots of noise. I'm sorry. Um, adjust. Anywho, is this better? No. Okay. I might end up re-recording this again. I recorded this episode yesterday, but this was happening with the mic and the static. I'm re-recording today. I got an infusion today because chronically ill and I felt like crap. Anyhow, yeah, I really just thought that this was a good time to come back on to kind of tell my full story and show that, like, I'm not coming on this podcast and just yapping as some girl that thinks she knows. Like, I have been through it. I know what it feels like. I truly hope that I can inspire somebody. I can help somebody. Like, I have been at rock bottom. I was sleeping in my car. During COVID, my best friend, my old roommate, I had left Culver, but I didn't have any place to go. So my best friend during COVID, Culver, I'm sorry if you're hearing this, snuck me into Culver Stockton's campus and let me sleep with her in her bed, um, in her suite, because I didn't have anywhere to go. I was sleeping in my car. I was couch hopping. I truly I was at rock bottom. And Kaylee has always been very great helping me get my shit together. She's one of those friends that she will tell you to get your shit together. I'm just so thankful that I have friends like that. And honestly, that I made the scary decision to move to Kansas City. I was petrified to move to Kansas City. I kept putting it off. I kept putting it off. I kept putting it off. And finally, I went through something really, really traumatic. Was with somebody who did not keep his name to himself. And then I thought I was pregnant with this kid. And when I realized I wasn't, or found out I wasn't, I'd rather say, I came to Kansas City for the weekend to visit and instantly was like, it's time. Like, I don't know how to describe the feeling of I'm driving in my car and I get a text from my uncle talking about we need to get dinner while I'm in town this weekend. And I'm on the highway and I burst into tears. And it was such a clarifying moment of I need to come to Kansas City. Like, it's time. And I walk in my grandparents' doors in tears. And I'm like, I'm ready to move. I want to move to Kansas City. And obviously they're ecstatic. They're like, what's going on? They're like, why are you crying? And I just explained to them, like, there's nothing for me there. I am putting myself in this situation to continue this cycle that I'm in, and I need to get out of it. And I think with our mental health, that is one thing we sometimes lack, like, recognition of. And I recognize that not everybody has the means to just, like, start over, get out of their toxic environment. And I highly recommend people either A, do that, get out of your toxic environment if you can, or B, look for resources. Because I saw this quote and it is my favorite quote. Staying in the same place that made you sick won't help you heal. Like, you won't get better. Um, and I truly, truly believe that, especially after my move to Kansas City I've been here for almost 3 years now. And like I said earlier, like, I don't even recognize the girl in those videos. The growth I've made once I left that toxic little town that was holding me back and all those people. And I just, it's easier to make something of yourself and to become a happier, better version of you. Like I said, I know everyone doesn't have the means to just up and leave their situation, but there are resources. Some of the resources should be better. I feel like that's something maybe I really want to try and advocate for, is like better and more domestic violence shelters, because it's so, I feel like, underspoken and it's such a big deal. Like, women are losing their lives, women are losing their children, and it's so, so sad. And we need to have more resources for these people. And they say, it takes an average of 6 times for a woman to finally leave. And I feel like that could go down if we truly showed up for these women instead of just, oh, they're going to go back. Oh, what did they do to deserve it? Like, no woman deserves to be beat. No man deserves to be beat either. I know it works both ways, but more often than not, it is the woman getting, being the victim. And I feel like we as a community don't really do much. We just, another day, shrug our shoulders, whatever. And if we can just raise the awareness this is going to drive me nuts, raise the awareness and advocate for these people and help them and show up for them. Like, maybe they'd learn that, like, oh, I can do this without them. Because I feel like that's a lot of reason the women go back, is they feel like they can't do it without that person. Or they're gaslit into believing like they'll never do better than that person, or that person will change. Honey, that guy's not going to change. And you can do better and you deserve better. And we need to be better about showing up for those women and proving that to them and helping them see that. And it's just, you look at the homeless community, you look at the domestic violence situation, you look at the child abuse statistics, and it's no wonder we have a mental health crisis right now because it just everybody's going through some things that are so unnecessary. I'll never understand what goes through a person's mind to make them do those horrible things. But as a community, we need to be better at advocating for those victims and showing up for them because that's really all anybody needs is support. Like for me, I really just needed support. And I don't know, guys, it's just a sad, sad time out here and we need to do better. Be a friend to somebody, be a light, be kind. If you're struggling, please reach out. Please know you're not alone. There's, even if you haven't met them yet, there's somebody who's rooting for you that is gonna need you. And things can get better. You can be at rock bottom. You can be at the bottom of the bottle. You can be sleeping in your car. Things get better. You just have to believe that for yourself and allow it. You have to allow for the change for things to get better. And you have to accept the support. So please just, if you're feeling any of those feelings, call hotlines, call a family member, call a friend, message me. My inbox is open. I truly, truly hope that we can, as a community and a society, continue to grow the awareness and continue to provide support and be advocates for these people. Anywho, that's all for today. Come back next week. We're going to talk some chronic illness. Thanks, guys. Love you all.